If you've watched my channel at all this summer, you'll know that I took about 4.5 acres that were in CRP for years and converted it into all kinds of deer forage and cover. I also made some radical changes in the warm season grasses, which I'll update you on as well. I recently had a drone fly over and take some footage over my food sources the other day. This footage shows my beans, corn, and my new milo field. There's a lot of red milo heads despite the weeds and grasses. I planted rutabagas and sugar beets between the rows of the milo. Once you step into the fields and push the milo back and inspect, the rutabagas and the sugar beets are there, so there's a lot of food. Part of my enjoyment and the challenges that I put upon myself is in creating strategic deer movement and patterns where they did not exist before. As you can see, I've created this alfalfa corridor that leads to and from bedding areas and other food sources. This has been an absolute blast working on this project this year. I added in individual clumps of miscanthus grass, more fruit trees, and did some spot spraying to create different types of structure, along with moving in a handful of Norway spruce. I have learned so much. It just goes to show that regardless of how many years you spend working habitat, there's always something new that Mother Nature can teach you. You'll notice a couple of light green spots out in the center of this bean field. Those two locations became bedding areas for deer all summer long. So I went ahead and broadcast brassicas in there just before rain, about 3 weeks before this video. You can see a deer bed even still in the fresh brassicas. Here's some video I took in mid-July when I was observing out of my blind, and there's 5 or 6 different deer laying in that location. And there's some competitive grasses coming up that makes them feel comfortable. I know some of you are wondering, why is that switchgrass all cut down out there right along the edge of the corn? From my bank's blind, that's created a great edge that I can see right to that apple tree. And deer being such edge creatures, I know they're going to hang around that apple tree, feed in that small bean field, move towards this bean field, and come right up along the edge of that corn. It's just how they are, so I used a little planting architecture as I was drilling in the corn to nudge the deer where I want them to be. This will be a great location for harvesting does in late season, and it might even be a good spot for me to get a crack at a nice buck. Just a ways north of this area, through some conifers, is my larger destination food plot that's planted in Seclusion 360 clover and chicory blend. I've placed a strategic travel corridor leading from a bedding area. 2 rows of miscanthus grass 50 yards long makes for an ideal pinch point. This location has been a prime spot for several years, and I've taken multiple high quality bucks off of this food plot. The pinch point and the cedar tree where they scrape really enhances deer movement and use during the low movement periods. I've also got a watering tub just off beside a autumn olive that really keeps the deer busy. I have quite a few food sources located between my native warm season grasses and my house and yard and the hardwood edge to the north. You can see we're flying over some soybeans that I drilled into different cover crops, and there's a group of deer that are just moving off to the left. We're flying over a strip of corn that divides the alfalfa from the soybeans, which needs to be sprayed with Roundup, which I took care of this week. A couple of more deer off to the right, and we come up to my northeast corner food, where I've got some strategic pinch points created using miscanthus grass, a Banks blind that I hunt out of occasionally. For the most part, all of this food is left to the whitetails without me hunting them. I do believe that when you own a property, definitely you need to have areas where the deer feel safe, can come and go anytime during the day and night and not run into humans, and that's what this 3 to 4 acres of food does for me. You'll see I've got a really nice combination of corn and soybeans planted here, and then we end up on the south end of a brand new plot that I started about the first week of June this year. I have a small section of brassicas that I just established a few weeks ago, but this neat little plot has corn running at an angle along with rutabagas, sugar beets, and other brassicas that I can see from that Banks blind. So it will just be fun to observe what happens with these different architectural changes that I put into the food plots this year. We now swing around and start heading back west over the top of the alfalfa, and you'll see there's a handful of deer down in the bottom. You can tell the deer have noticed the drone moving towards them, but they really don't seem all that alarmed. Very interesting to see. Notice that one area where they've browsed the beans completely? That's why it's thin to the right there, is because the deer spend so much time down in that low area. As we fly up to the top where the miscanthus grass is, you can see I've cut a hole in here just so I can observe from this Banks blind that is so convenient for me to get into without deer seeing or smelling me. I only use a north or a slightly west wind when I hunt out of that blind, but it really lets me take a look at these food sources and use the technique of the deer come to me. I want to show you the kind of cover that's in these dozen strips of corn. This corn was drilled into a terminated strip of 20-year-old CRP. And one thing I learned many years ago is deer really prefer cornfields that have a bunch of residue. You can see the volunteer switchgrass that came back after 2 sprayings with herbicide, and there's all kinds of broadleaves and cool season grasses, along with big blue stem, all kinds of raspberries, and you just name it. This corn emerged quickly after the ground was sprayed, and by mid-July it was 4 feet tall. So all these grasses and competition have not bothered it in the least. Pretty cool. I hope this gives you a little snapshot of what I've got growing this year on my farm. If you're interested in creating a planned food, cover, and hidden access network on your hunting property, where deer movements are more strategic, you can triple the amount of attractive edge and offer diversity in all your habitats, please contact me before the first of the year so you too can get on my limited client list, and let's build your buck factory together. Since the drone footage was shot, I got out with my walk-behind brush hog and mowed through the standing beans, creating deer movement pathways that continued through the mix of standing corn and soybeans as well. It was thick going and I had to stop once in a while, but I got it all done. Then I came right back and overseeded crimson clover, red clover, daikon radishes, and some winter rye down the pathway all the way through to the other end. I've had great luck using this technique for years. My final habitat enhancement went in yesterday, a grizzly water tank. This is high elevation, far away from any wetlands, so I know the deer will really use it. Aerial drone pilot services used in this video were provided by Randy Vanderveen. Be sure to contact him if you're looking for high-quality drone video, high-resolution photo mosaic images, and thermal imagery deer surveys where legal. Thanks for watching another HS360 LLC video, and good luck and good habitat.